It happened on a night that was supposed to be filled with laughter and celebration. My daughter-in-law, Naomi, had just raised her glass for a birthday toast when she suddenly collapsed in front of everyone. The restaurant went silent, and in that chaos, her phone slid across the floor right to my feet. One new message flashed on the screen, sent from my son's number. It said, "It's done. Mom won't survive tonight." In that single moment, my entire world turned upside down. Was my son trying to kill me? Was it a mistake? Or was I living in a house built on lies with people who wanted me gone? What started as a fainting spell became a race for my life, uncovering hidden cameras, forged documents, and a secret that reached far beyond my family. Stay with me till the end, because what I discovered will haunt you too. Before I start my story, comment below and tell me where in the world you're watching from today. And if you like suspenseful stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe and turn on the bell icon for more. It was supposed to be a peaceful evening. The lakefront restaurant glowed with soft yellow lights, and I remember thinking how calm everything looked. My name is Lena Carter, and that night I was celebrating my daughter-in-law's 28th birthday. Naomi Blake, my son's wife, sat across the table, her hair neatly tied, a pale blue dress that matched her eyes. My son, Daniel Carter, had planned the dinner himself, saying Naomi deserved something quiet and private after her long week at work. He had always been thoughtful, but that night something about him felt distant. He kept checking his watch, tapping the table like he was counting seconds. The waiter brought out the cake at 7:30. Naomi smiled, a soft, tired smile, and leaned forward to blow out the candles. "Make a wish," I said. She laughed weakly and picked up her glass for a toast. "To family," she said. But before the words left her mouth, her voice faltered. Her hand trembled, the glass slipped, and the sound of breaking glass cut through the music. She collapsed, her chair falling backward. For a second, everyone froze. Daniel rushed to her, shouting her name. "Naomi! Naomi, can you hear me?" The waiter called for help, and I grabbed her wrist. It was still warm, but her pulse fluttered. People gathered around, whispering. Amid the confusion, her phone slid off the table and landed near my foot. The screen lit up with a message. My eyes caught it before it dimmed. "It's done. Mom won't survive tonight." The sender's name on the screen made my blood turn cold. It said Daniel. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My own son's name on that message. My own name implied in those words. The screen went dark again. I looked at Daniel. He was still kneeling beside Naomi, calling her name, looking desperate. He didn't glance at me once. I wanted to believe it was some mistake. Maybe a spam text, maybe an old draft. But it was time-stamped exactly at the minute Naomi fainted. The paramedics arrived fast. They lifted Naomi onto a stretcher and carried her outside. Daniel followed close behind. I stayed a few minutes to collect her purse and the phone, which I slipped quietly into my handbag. My fingers were shaking. Outside, the blue lights from the ambulance flickered across the windows. I saw Daniel speaking to one of the medics. His face was pale, and when he looked up and saw me watching, he froze. For 1 second, our eyes met, and something in his face, fear, guilt, I couldn't tell which, made my stomach twist. Back home, the silence pressed hard against me. The kitchen clock ticked too loud. I put Naomi's phone on the table, staring at it like it might explode. Then I walked through the house, noticing little things I had never paid attention to before. The back door latch was loose. The medicine cabinet was slightly open. On the counter sat my teacup from the morning, half full, untouched since breakfast. I picked it up, sniffed it, and stopped. The smell was faint but sharp, like almonds. I poured it down the sink. My phone buzzed, a message from Daniel. "She's stable now, don't worry, going to stay overnight at the hospital." No punctuation, no warmth, no call. I typed a reply. What happened? But deleted it before sending. Something told me not to confront him yet. Instead, I sat down and opened the restaurant receipt I had folded into my purse. 2 bottles of water were listed. I remembered only one being opened at our table. The other was marked as special request, ordered under a name I didn't recognize. Harold Dean. That name stuck in my mind. Harold worked at our estate. He handled maintenance, deliveries, small errands. Daniel trusted him completely. I had always found him quiet, too quiet. And lately, he'd been coming by more often than usual, sometimes letting himself in through the back gate. I walked to the pantry and checked the shelf where Harold had placed my supplements last week. The labels were crooked. One bottle was missing its seal. My heart thumped so loud it hurt. I opened my notebook and began to write everything down, every odd moment from the last month. The night my bedroom window was left open, the strange taste in my tea, the new insurance papers Daniel asked me to sign but never explained. When I finished, it was past midnight. I sat in the dark with only the hallway light on. The house felt alive, watching me. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked once, then silence. I held Naomi's phone in my hands and whispered to myself, if Daniel didn't send that message, who did? The screen flickered suddenly, as if answering me. Another notification appeared, a second message from the same contact. Don't forget to check the water. My throat tightened. There was no one else in the house but me, and I had already poured my tea down the drain. The next morning came too quiet. The light through the curtains felt wrong, pale and flat, as if the house itself knew something had changed. I hadn't slept. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the half-empty chair across from me. It used to be Daniel's spot when he visited for breakfast on weekends. Now every memory felt like a question I didn't want answered. At 8:30, my phone rang. It was the hospital. Naomi had regained consciousness. The nurse said she was weak but stable. Daniel was already there. I thanked her, hung up, and sat still for a long moment. Part of me wanted to drive straight there, hold Naomi's hand and see my son's face when I walked in. The other part told me to wait and watch. That second voice felt colder, sharper, and it scared me that I trusted it more. I made black coffee and opened my notebook from last night. The top page held 2 words I had written over and over. It's done. Each time I saw them, my pulse jumped. I unlocked Naomi's phone again. The message was still there, the same timestamp, same sender name, Daniel Carter. I tried to open the full conversation, but a password screen appeared. The phone wanted a passcode or face unlock. I didn't have either. I almost gave up until I noticed the preview bar above the locked chat. It showed an older message fragment. Don't leave it near her mug. My mug. I checked my kitchen again, slowly this time. The sugar jar was light. Someone had refilled it with fresh granules recently, but I hadn't opened a new pack in weeks. The plastic seal from the last bag was missing. When I unscrewed the lid, a thin white powder dusted the rim. Not sugar, something finer. I dumped it carefully into a zip bag and sealed it. Around 9:30, my friend Kara Mitchell called. She had been a nurse for years before opening a small private investigation service. I had helped her with taxes once. "You sound like you've seen a ghost," she said. I told her I needed advice, strictly private. Within an hour, she was sitting in my living room, notebook open, hair pulled back like she was back on duty. I showed her the phone, the message, and the sugar sample. She didn't say much at first. She only asked short questions. "Any allergies? New staff? Changes in your diet?" Then she leaned back. "We'll need to test that powder, quietly. And Lena, don't tell Daniel yet. Not until we know what we're holding." I nodded, though my throat felt dry. Kara took the bag, slipped it into her coat, and said she'd have results by tonight. Before leaving, she paused at the door. "If this is what it looks like, someone close to you wanted a slow kill, not a fast one. Something that looks like a heart issue or stress collapse. Whoever planned it thought you wouldn't question small fatigue." When she left, I sat down and realized my hands were shaking again. Every sound made me jump. The hum of the fridge, the mail slot clinking, a car passing outside. At 11, I forced myself to get dressed and drove to the hospital. Naomi's room smelled of antiseptic and faint perfume. She was awake but pale, her eyes flicking to me the moment I entered. "Mrs. Carter." she whispered. "I'm sorry." Her voice cracked. Daniel stood by the window, arms crossed. He didn't turn around. I walked closer to Naomi's bed. "Sorry for what?" I asked. She looked at Daniel, then back at me. "I shouldn't have opened your messages," she said. My stomach twisted. "What messages?" Daniel stepped in fast. "Mom, don't listen to her. She's confused. The medication's making her talk nonsense." But Naomi shook her head weakly. "No, I saw the message too. The one that said you wouldn't survive tonight." The room went silent. Daniel's jaw tightened. For a split second, his eyes met mine. Hard, unreadable. Then he forced a smile. "She's mixing things up, Mom. Rest, Naomi. I'll handle this." He guided me toward the hallway. His grip on my arm was firm. "Let's talk outside." The door closed behind us. In the corridor light, his face looked older, sharper. "Mom," he said quietly, "don't believe everything you see. Some things are being twisted. Promise me you won't show anyone that phone." His tone wasn't pleading. It was warning. That was the moment I knew the message hadn't been an accident. I didn't promise him anything. I just nodded, pretending to agree, and walked away. My heart was hammering so hard that I felt dizzy, but I kept my pace steady until I reached the hospital exit. Outside, the wind was cold, cutting across my face. I sat in the car for almost 10 minutes before I could start the engine. His voice kept replaying in my mind, low, calm, and almost rehearsed. "Don't show anyone that phone." It didn't sound like concern. It sounded like control. Back home, I locked every door and window, something I hadn't done in years during the day. I went straight to my desk and took out the documents Daniel had brought me the week before. Papers he said were routine updates for the family trust. I hadn't read them carefully at the time. I trusted him. Now, under the bright desk lamp, I read every word. Near the bottom of the second page, a line stopped me cold. It stated that, in the event of my medical incapacitation or untimely death, Daniel would assume full control of the firm and the estate. The clause was signed. By me. My signature, neat and clean. Except I had never signed this version. The date was last Friday. I was in bed with a migraine that day. I stared at the signature for a long time. It was close. So close. But the angle of the L in Lena was slightly different. I checked other papers from my drawer. Every one of my real signatures leaned slightly to the left. This one didn't. Someone had traced it. My own son or someone helping him. At 2 o'clock, Kara called back. "Lena, I have the results," she said. Her tone had no hesitation. "That powder from your sugar jar, it's not sugar and it's not medicine. It's a low-dose compound of digitalis. In small amounts, it mimics heart failure." My hand went numb. "Are you sure?" "Positive. Whoever mixed it knew what they were doing. You wouldn't taste it in warm tea." For a full minute, I couldn't speak. Finally, I whispered, "Then someone tried to kill me." Kara exhaled. "It looks that way. Don't confront anyone yet. Let me dig further. Where's Daniel now?" "At the hospital," I said. "With Naomi." "Good. Stay away from both of them for now. If he's innocent, we'll know soon. But if he's not, he's already one step ahead." After she hung up, I sat motionless in my chair. I wanted to cry, but no tears came. My mind felt empty, almost quiet. Then I heard footsteps outside. Heavy, slow, coming up the porch steps. A soft knock followed. I stood, my hands tight around the edge of the table. When I opened the door, Harold Dean stood there, the estate manager. His uniform was spotless, his face polite as always. "Afternoon, Mrs. Carter," he said. "Mr. Daniel asked me to bring over some documents you might have left in his car. He said they're important." He handed me a sealed brown envelope. I forced a smile. "Thank you, Harold. I'll look at them later." He didn't leave immediately. His eyes scanned the hallway behind me as if checking something. "Everything all right here? You seem tired." "I'm fine," I said. "Just need rest." He nodded, but his eyes lingered a second too long. When he finally turned to leave, I watched from the window until he drove off. Then I locked the door again and opened the envelope on the kitchen counter. Inside were more papers, insurance policy updates. The beneficiary section had one new name underlined in blue ink: Daniel Carter. That night, as I lay in bed, sleep wouldn't come. Every sound felt amplified. The creak of the ceiling, the ticking clock, even my own breathing. Somewhere in the house, a floorboard shifted. I sat up, heart racing. Then the hallway light flickered on by itself. I held my breath, listening. After a few seconds, the light went dark again. I whispered to the empty room, "If he's doing this, he won't stop now." And for the first time in my life, I locked my bedroom door from the inside. The night dragged on like a slow countdown. Every creak in the house felt like a warning. I sat upright in bed, listening, my phone clutched in my hand. At 2:17 a.m., it buzzed with a new notification from Naomi's phone, which I had hidden in my nightstand. The message preview flashed once before the screen went dark. It wasn't from Daniel this time. It was from an unknown number. "Don't drink anything he gives you." My stomach tightened. Whoever sent that text knew more than I did. I scrolled quickly through the other notifications on Naomi's phone. All the recent ones were locked behind the same password screen. Only the previews showed. 3 days earlier, make sure she signs before Saturday. 2 days earlier, keep her tea separate. The pattern was clear, but I couldn't prove who was sending them. I left the bedroom quietly and went to my small home office. The curtains were still drawn from earlier. I sat down at my desk, opened my laptop, and started pulling up old bank statements. Daniel had joint access to some of my accounts because he helped with bookkeeping for the firm. Over the last month, there had been several small withdrawals, $500 here, $800 there, from branches across the city. They all added up to more than $10,000. The notes on each transaction read, "consulting fee," but I didn't pay anyone under that name. At 3 a.m., Kara texted me. I ran the sender ID on that message from Daniel. It's a spoofed number. The account is a prepaid SIM bought 2 weeks ago at a convenience store, paid in cash, used only to text Naomi's phone. I called her immediately. "Then Daniel didn't send it?" I whispered. "We can't rule him out yet," Kara said. "The SIM could still be his, but the messages weren't from his main phone." I rubbed my forehead. "He's already changed the trust. He's already forged my signature. Now this—" "Stop," Kara cut in. "It may not be him. Think of everyone with access to your house, your tea, your documents. Think of Harold. Think of anyone Naomi might have confided in." Her words made my skin crawl. Harold had been in my kitchen more than once. He had full access to my pantry, my locks, even my security codes. He handled deliveries without needing my signature. And Naomi had been nervous for weeks. Was she trying to protect me, or was she part of this? When the sun finally came up, I forced myself to shower, dress, and go back to the hospital. Naomi's room was empty except for a nurse changing the sheets. "She was discharged an hour ago," the nurse said. "Her husband picked her up." "Husband?" I repeated, my voice catching. "Yes," she said, glancing at her clipboard. "Daniel Carter signed her out. He said they were going home to rest." I left the hospital quickly. The parking lot shimmered with morning heat. I dialed Daniel's phone. Straight to voicemail. I tried Naomi's. Turned off. I called Kara. "They're gone," I said. "He took her. He didn't even tell me." "Lock your doors," Kara said at once. "Stay inside. I'll be there in 20 minutes. I hung up and drove home fast, checking my mirrors the whole way. When I turned onto my street, my breath caught. Harold's truck was parked at the curb in front of my house. The driver's seat was empty. My front door stood slightly open. I killed the engine, sat very still, and gripped my keys so hard they cut into my palm. Something was moving inside my house. A shadow crossed the hallway window, then disappeared. And for the first time since this nightmare began, I realized I might not make it out if I walked through that door. I stayed in the car with the engine off, my eyes fixed on the half-open front door. The morning air felt heavy, and every instinct in my body screamed at me not to move. My hands trembled on the steering wheel. I lowered myself slowly until I was below the window line. From where I sat, I could see the hallway light flicker on, then off again. Someone was inside, and it wasn't me. I reached for my phone and called Kara. She answered on the first ring. "He's in the house," I whispered. "The door's open. Harold's truck is outside." "Stay in the car," Kara said sharply. "I'm 2 streets away. Do not go in. If you have to, honk and draw. Neighbors out. I'm calling a contact now." I slid lower, trying to control my breathing. A movement at the front window caught my eye. Harold Dean stepped into view, holding a folder. His face was calm, almost blank. He looked out the window as if scanning for me, then disappeared from sight. A second later, the door opened wider. Then, shockingly, Naomi Blake stumbled out onto the porch. Her hair was messy, her blouse wrinkled. She glanced around wildly, spotted my car, and started waving both arms. "Mrs. Carter," she cried, "stay in the car." Her voice was hoarse, frantic. Behind her, Harold appeared again. This time, he wasn't holding the folder. He was holding a small bottle. "Get back inside, Naomi," he said in a flat voice. "You're making this worse." Naomi didn't move. "She knows Harold," she shouted. "She knows everything." I opened the car door just as Kara's sedan screeched to a stop behind me. She jumped out, badge in one hand, phone in the other. "Step back, Lena," she barked, "and stay behind the car." She pointed at Harold. "Drop whatever's in your hand." Harold froze, bottle halfway lifted. For a moment, the scene hung in silence. The 3 of us on the driveway, the open door behind him, the sound of a dog barking somewhere down the street. Then Harold slowly raised his other hand, palm out. "You don't understand," he said. "I was protecting her. Daniel told me she wouldn't listen." "Protecting who?" Kara demanded. She moved forward carefully, her eyes locked on him. Harold's gaze flicked to Naomi. "She found the paperwork. She found the policy. Daniel said she'd ruin everything." Naomi stepped down one stair, her hands shaking. "He told you to poison her tea," she shouted. "He told you I wouldn't talk if she was gone." I felt my knees weaken. The ground seemed to tilt. "Daniel?" I whispered. Harold took a small step forward, bottle still in hand. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," he said softly. "It was just supposed to make her tired, so she wouldn't go to the dinner. He promised me no one would get hurt." Kara's voice hardened. "Put the bottle on the ground, Harold. Right now." Naomi ran the rest of the way to my car and crouched behind the door with me. Her face was pale and damp. "Mrs. Carter," she said, clutching my arm, "he's telling the truth about Daniel. It's all in the phone. I copied the messages. He's been planning it for weeks." I stared at her. My son's name felt like a blade in my chest. "Show me," I said. Naomi's fingers dug into my sleeve. "We don't have time. He's coming back. Daniel's on his way." As she spoke, I saw headlights at the end of the street. Daniel's car turning slowly toward us. The silver sedan rolled up the street like a slow-moving shadow. My heart pounded so loud I could barely hear anything else. Daniel's car stopped behind Harold's truck. For a moment, the engine idled, then shut off. He didn't get out right away. Through the windshield, I could see him gripping the steering wheel, his face dark and unreadable. Kara shifted slightly, positioning herself between us and the driveway. "Lena, keep Naomi down," she murmured without looking back. With her other hand, she reached under her coat, showing Harold just enough of her badge to make her intent clear. "Nobody moves until I say so." Harold's hand shook now, the small bottle rattling as his fingers twitched. "I didn't sign up for this," he muttered. "I didn't want any of this." He dropped the bottle into the grass with a dull thud and raised both hands. Kara stepped forward fast, kicked the bottle further away, and ordered him to stay put. Naomi clutched my sleeve. Her whisper was frantic. "I have copies of the messages on a drive. He thought I deleted them, but I saved everything. Transfers, policy changes, instructions. It's all there. He wanted me to help him get your signature. When I refused, he started threatening me too." I stared at her, my stomach twisting. "You're sure?" "I swear on my life," she said, tears streaking down her cheeks. "That night at dinner, I swapped our glasses. You were supposed to drink the sedative, not me." The headlights dimmed. Daniel got out of the car slowly, closing the door with a soft click. He walked toward us, hands in his coat pockets, his expression calm. Too calm. "Mom," he said evenly, "step away from her. She's lying to you." Kara straightened, one arm extended. "Stop right there, Daniel. Hands where I can see them." He smiled faintly, but his eyes were cold. "Who are you?" "I'm someone who knows exactly what's in your mother's sugar jar," Kara said, "and what you've been texting under a fake number." For the first time, a flicker of panic crossed Daniel's face. He stopped walking, glanced at Harold, then at me. "You're listening to them," he said, his voice rising. "After everything I've done for you?" "You forged my signature," I said quietly, my voice shaking but clear. "You changed my trust. You tried to drug me." His jaw clenched. "No, Mom, that was supposed to protect you. You don't understand." Naomi's voice broke the air. "Tell her the truth, Daniel. Tell her what you told Harold, about the policy, about the money." Daniel's eyes snapped to her. For a heartbeat, he looked almost like a stranger, hard, cornered, dangerous. "Get back inside," he ordered. "Now." Kara's phone buzzed in her pocket. She flicked her eyes at the screen and then at me. "Backup's 2 minutes out," she whispered. The tension tightened like a wire. Harold was still standing with his hands up, Kara between him and us, Daniel 10 feet away, eyes darting, calculating. The only sound was the distant hum of a lawnmower somewhere down the block. Then Daniel took one slow step forward. "Mom," he said softly, "I did all of this for you. But if you hand me over to her," he nodded at Kara, "you'll lose everything. Think carefully." His words were like ice in my veins. My son standing in my driveway, speaking to me like a stranger, giving an ultimatum. And for the first time, I realized that whatever plan Daniel had started, it wasn't finished yet, and he wasn't going to leave quietly. The air felt like it had been sucked out of the street. Daniel stood 10 feet away, one hand half hidden in his coat, his voice low and calm but carrying an edge that made my stomach clench. Harold stayed frozen near the porch, his arms still raised. Kara shifted her stance again, putting one foot slightly ahead of the other, her eyes never leaving Daniel. "Hands where I can see them," she said quietly but firmly. "Both of them." Daniel tilted his head, a faint smile twitching at the corner of his mouth. "You think you know what's happening, but you don't. Harold panicked, Naomi lied, and now you're all standing there acting like I'm some villain." His eyes flicked to me. "Mom, you know me. You raised me. Why would I ever hurt you?" My mouth felt dry. "Because the papers are real," I said. "Because you forged my signature. Because my tea was poisoned." My voice cracked on the last word. Daniel's face changed. For a second, it almost looked like regret. Then his eyes hardened. "I did it to stop you from destroying yourself. You were going to sell the business, drain the trust. I was trying to save what Dad built." Naomi's voice shot across the driveway, sharp and trembling. "Stop lying. You told Harold that once Lena signed, you'd have control. You told me if I didn't help you, you'd ruin my career. I saved her life last night." Daniel's eyes locked on Naomi. His jaw flexed. "You think you're innocent? You went along with it at first? You wanted the money as much as I did." Naomi shook her head violently, tears streaking her face. "I tried to protect her. I took the glass, meant for her. I've been sick for 2 days because of you." She turned to me. "I kept every message. The drive's in my purse. Kara can show you everything." I looked at Kara. Her eyes were steady on Daniel, but she gave me a quick nod. She'd already seen some of the evidence Naomi brought. Daniel's hands finally came out of his coat, empty. He held them up like Harold, but his voice turned sharp. Think carefully, Mom. If you go through with this, it's not just me who goes down. Everything. Your firm, your accounts, your reputation gets dragged into court. I made sure of that. Kara took one step forward, her badge glinting in the sunlight. Daniel Carter, she said, her voice calm but cutting through the air. Step away from the car. Stay where you are until the officers arrive. If you run, it will get worse. He laughed once, short and bitter. Officers. As if on cue, 2 black and white cruisers turned into the street, their lights flashing but sirens off. Neighbors' curtains moved. People started coming out onto porches, phones in their hands. Daniel glanced at the cruisers, then at me, his eyes suddenly wild, like an animal realizing the trap had closed. Mom, he said again, softer this time, almost a plea. Don't do this. You don't understand what's about to happen. But I did. For the first time since the dinner, everything clicked into a cold, clear picture. Daniel wasn't protecting me. He was protecting himself. And now, the mask he had worn his whole life was slipping right there in my driveway, with 2 police cars rolling closer every second. The cruisers stopped at the edge of the driveway, red and blue lights flashing against the white walls of the house. 2 officers stepped out, hands on their belts, eyes moving quickly between Daniel, Kara, Harold, and me. The tension was so thick it felt like the air itself might break. Kara raised one hand. Detective Mitchell, private security consultant. The suspect's name is Daniel Carter. Attempted poisoning and financial fraud. The accomplice, Harold Dean, is cooperating. Daniel took a step back, his voice calm but trembling underneath. This is insane. She's not a detective, she's my mother's friend. You can't arrest me based on her word. The taller officer spoke evenly. Sir, step forward, hands where we can see them. Daniel shook his head slowly. You're making a mistake. She's not in her right mind. He looked straight at me then, his voice turning soft, almost tender. Mom, tell them. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. You know I'd never hurt you. I wanted to believe him so badly that my chest hurt, but the words wouldn't come. Behind him, Naomi clutched her purse to her chest, whispering something to Kara. Kara nodded once and handed the purse to one of the officers. USB drive inside, she said. All messages, transfers, and voice notes. It's enough to start. Daniel's mask cracked. You stole from me? He snapped at Naomi. After everything I did for you. Naomi straightened her shoulders, though her hands were shaking. You did this to yourself, Daniel. You planned to kill your own mother. That sentence hung in the air. Every sound in the street went quiet. The birds, the neighbors, even the wind. Daniel stared at her, then turned to me. His expression emptied. So that's what you think of me, he said softly, after everything I sacrificed. The officers started moving in. Kara gestured for Harold to keep his hands visible. The sound of boots on gravel filled the air. Daniel's composure snapped. You don't get to destroy me, he shouted. He took a quick step toward the car, but the officer closest to him grabbed his arm. Daniel struggled, shouting my name. Mom, tell them I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You have to believe me. Enough, the officer barked. They pushed him against the car, cuffed his wrists, and read him his rights. I stood frozen, watching the same boy I'd taught to ride a bike, now pinned against cold metal, yelling and crying like a stranger. Kara came closer, her voice low. Lena, don't say anything. Let them take him in. Everything we found will speak for itself. As they led Daniel to the cruiser, he turned his head toward me one last time. His voice dropped to a whisper, but I heard it clearly. You think you're safe now, but you're not. You don't know what I started. The door shut, cutting off his voice. The car pulled away slowly, the lights fading down the street. I felt my knees give out, and I sank onto the front step. Naomi knelt beside me, her hands cold against mine. It's over, she said softly. But when I looked at the dark stain where the bottle had fallen in the grass, a chill ran down my spine. Something about Daniel's last words clung to me. Whatever he had started, it wasn't finished yet. The police cars disappeared down the street, their lights fading into the distance. I sat on the front step, staring at the quiet driveway, my mind numb. The air smelled faintly of cut grass and something sour from the spilled liquid in the lawn. Naomi stayed beside me, both of us shaking, neither speaking for a long time. Inside the house, the lights flickered again, once, then went out completely. Kara noticed first. She turned toward the porch. "Stay here," she said quickly. "Don't move." She drew a small flashlight from her pocket and walked into the house, her steps steady and measured. The beam of light moved across the hallway, then vanished deeper inside. I could hear drawers opening, the sound of a door creaking, her voice calling out once, low and tense. "Lena, where's your circuit panel?" "In the basement," I shouted back. A moment later, the light reappeared, then the lamps blinked on again, dim but steady. Kara came back outside, holding something small wrapped in a towel. Her face was pale. "Found this near the breaker box," she said. She unwrapped the towel. Inside was a small black device, no larger than a matchbox, with a blinking red light. "Hidden camera," she said quietly. "And it's transmitting." Naomi covered her mouth. He was watching her. Kara nodded grimly. "Probably installed weeks ago, maybe more than one. This wasn't a quick job." I felt my stomach twist. "Daniel did this?" "Maybe not alone," Kara said. "He doesn't have the technical skill. Someone set this up for him. Look here, this isn't a cheap spy gadget. It's networked." She turned the device in her hand. "That means there's a receiver somewhere. And if he wasn't working alone, whoever helped him could still be listening." Naomi looked around the street nervously. "He said she wasn't safe," she whispered. "What if he meant someone else would finish it?" Kara met my eyes. "I'll sweep the whole house. You two stay outside until I'm done. Don't touch anything inside yet." I nodded, though my chest felt tight. Naomi and I moved to the curb, away from the open door. She was still trembling. "Mrs. Carter," she said softly, "I think Daniel wasn't the only one involved. There's someone else, someone he called the broker. I saw the name once in his messages, but he deleted them right after. Do you know who it is?" She shook her head. "Only that he said the broker arranged the documents and took a percentage when the policy went through. He told me it was someone Dad used to work with at the firm, but he never said a name." Before I could reply, Kara came out holding 3 more small cameras in a plastic bag. "Bedroom, kitchen, and study," she said, "all recording. Whoever was on the other end knows the police came. We need to leave for tonight. I'll call an evidence team to sweep the rest." I looked back at the house. The place that had once felt warm and safe now looked strange and hollow, its windows dark, its walls hiding things I didn't want to see. Naomi took my hand gently. "You can stay with me tonight. I'll drive." I hesitated, but Kara nodded. "Go with her. I'll handle this side." As we drove away, I watched the house shrink in the rearview mirror. It was the first time in 30 years that I felt afraid to be inside my own home. And though Daniel was in police custody, one thought wouldn't leave me. If he had been working with someone called the broker, then this story wasn't about family anymore. It was something much bigger. The drive to Naomi's apartment felt endless. Neither of us said much. The rain had started again, tapping lightly on the windshield, turning the street lights into long, trembling streaks of gold. My hands stayed clenched in my lap. Every sound outside felt like a threat, every passing car like someone following us. Naomi's apartment was on the 3rd floor of an old brick building. It was small but neat, with books stacked neatly along the window ledge and a faint smell of lavender. She locked the door twice and closed the curtains tight before switching on a small lamp. Her cat darted out from under the sofa, then disappeared into the next room. "You can sleep in my room," Naomi said quietly. "I'll stay on the couch." "I don't think either of us will sleep," I replied. My voice sounded far away, like someone else's. I sat on the edge of the sofa, staring at the rain-streaked window. "He used to call me every night," I whispered. "Even after he got married, he'd still check if I'd eaten. Now I can't even picture his face without hearing that message in my head. Naomi sat across from me, her hands wrapped around a mug of cold tea. "Daniel changed after your husband passed," she said. "He stopped trusting people. He thought everyone was trying to take something from him." I looked up at her. "So he decided to take everything from me instead?" She didn't answer. The silence stretched, filled only by the sound of the rain and the faint hum of the refrigerator. After a while, I asked, "Naomi, why did you help him at first? You must have known something wasn't right." Her eyes lowered. "At the beginning, he said it was about the business. He told me you were planning to sell it, that it would ruin his future. He said if I helped with the paperwork, I'd be securing the family's stability. I didn't see how wrong it was until the first message about the tea." She took a shaky breath. By then, Harold was already involved. I tried to back out, but Daniel said he'd tell people I'd helped falsify records. I panicked. I studied her face. She looked exhausted, paler than before, her eyes swollen from crying, but there was honesty in her voice. "And the broker?" I asked. "Who was he?" Naomi rubbed her temples. "I don't know his real name. Daniel only referred to him as the broker, or sometimes Mr. Gray. He said the man handled the financial cleanup. He was supposed to move the funds overseas once the insurance cleared." My heart skipped. "Overseas?" She nodded. "Daniel mentioned an account in Zurich. He said it was already open under a company name. The broker handled the filings." I pressed my hand to my mouth. So Daniel planned everything. My death, the forged documents, the payout, and someone else was waiting to collect their share. Naomi's voice dropped. "That's why Harold was scared today. He told me this morning that the broker wasn't happy with how long things were taking. He said the man wanted his cut by the end of the week or he'd handle it himself." Harold didn't know what that meant. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Kara. "Evidence team confirmed 5 cameras total. Found one audio transmitter in bedroom ceiling vent. Also found new prints that don't match Daniel or Harold. Sending details soon. Stay where you are." My hands tightened around the phone. "New prints," I said softly. "There's someone else." Naomi frowned. "You think the broker's been inside your house?" I looked toward the window. The rain had stopped, but the glass shimmered with the reflection of the streetlight. If those cameras were sending live footage, he's seen everything. He knew when Daniel was arrested. He knew when we left. He might even know where we are now. Naomi went pale. "Then we shouldn't stay here." Before I could reply, there was a faint sound from the hallway. A slow, deliberate knock. 3 taps, evenly spaced. Naomi froze, her eyes darting to the door. I whispered, "Did you give anyone this address?" She shook her head. The knock came again, louder this time. Naomi's breathing quickened. She reached for her phone, but I caught her hand and whispered, "Wait." We stood perfectly still. The peephole showed only darkness. Whoever was outside had covered it. Then a folded envelope slid slowly under the door, scraping against the wood. No footsteps followed. Just silence. Naomi knelt down and picked it up, her hands shaking. She turned it over. My name was written across the front in neat black ink. Lena Carter. There was no return address, only one word in the corner, written in smaller letters. Gray. Naomi's voice was barely a whisper. He found us. For a long moment, we didn't breathe. The envelope sat between us on the coffee table, its edges damp from the rain. The neat handwriting, so precise, so deliberate, made my skin crawl. Naomi pulled her knees up to her chest on the couch, her fingers knotted together. The apartment felt smaller with the letter sitting there, as if the walls were closing in. I reached out, but my hand stopped inches above it. "Don't touch it yet," I whispered. "He wants us to open it." Naomi's voice trembled. "How does he know where I live? I never gave Daniel my address. We always met at neutral places." "He didn't need your address," I murmured. "He's been watching everything. Cameras in my house, listening devices. He knew we'd come here." I picked up my phone and called Kara, pressing it to my ear so hard my knuckles whitened. She answered on the second ring. "We're not alone," I said without preamble. An envelope just slid under Naomi's door, signed Gray. "Don't open it," Kara said immediately. I could hear movement and the sound of a car engine behind her. "I'm on my way now. Don't touch anything. He could be close." I lowered the phone, my heart hammering. Naomi's eyes were wide, glassy. "He's here, isn't he?" I didn't answer. My mind was already turning over possibilities. How had he gotten into the building? Did he have a key, or had he bribed someone? Did he leave the letter himself, or send someone else? The knock at the door came again, softer this time. 3 taps, the same rhythm. Naomi flinched. I stood, moving slowly toward the window. From the 3rd floor I could see the street below, dark except for one parked van with tinted windows idling under the streetlight. The driver's side window was cracked open. A man in a baseball cap sat inside, his face hidden. He held something, maybe a phone, maybe a camera, angled toward the building. "He's in the van," I whispered. Naomi scrambled up and peeked over my shoulder. "What do we do?" The envelope sat between us like a dare. My mind flashed to Daniel's last words in the driveway. "You don't know what I started." I thought of the cameras, the forged papers, the new prints at my house. This wasn't just about greed anymore. This was a system. The broker, the overseas, account, the insurance policy. All threads leading back to that van. I forced myself to move. I grabbed a plastic sandwich bag from Naomi's kitchen and, using a dish towel, slid the envelope inside without touching it directly. Naomi watched me, trembling. "Why?" she asked. "For fingerprints," I said, "and because if there's a tracking device or powder inside, we won't spread it." I set the bagged envelope in the sink, far from us, then shut off the kitchen light. "We wait for Kara," I said. "No sounds, no sudden movements." But waiting in silence only made the fear grow. Every creak in the hallway outside felt like footsteps. Every car door slamming down the block sounded like someone coming up the stairs. Naomi sat on the edge of the sofa, gripping a throw pillow like a shield. Finally, she whispered, "Lena, there's something I didn't tell you." I turned slowly. "What?" She bit her lip hard enough to leave a mark. 2 days ago, Daniel showed me a contract from the broker. It wasn't just about the insurance money. It said once you were gone, the firm's pension funds would be liquidated into an offshore account under a new name. Not his name. Mine. He told me I'd get a cut if I kept quiet. She looked down, ashamed. I pretended to agree so he'd let me see the details. I memorized the account number. But now... She trailed off. "But now the broker knows you've talked," I finished for her. She nodded silently, tears slipping down her cheeks. Another sound came from the hallway, this time the faint metallic click of an elevator door opening, then slow, heavy footsteps approaching the apartment door. Naomi's phone buzzed. A text preview flashed across the screen. No sender name, only numbers. "Open the envelope or I open the door." Naomi looked at me, terrified. "He's here, Lena. He's right outside." I moved closer to the door, straining to hear. A shadow passed under the crack at the bottom. Then the knob rattled once, gently, like a test. I raised my phone and texted Kara with shaking fingers. "He's at the door now." Seconds later, my phone buzzed back. "Hold tight. 2 blocks away. Police en route. Do not engage." The knob rattled again, harder this time. A man's low voice came through the wood, calm and steady. "You have something of mine. Slide it back under or I come in." Naomi's face went white. "He means the envelope." I took a deep breath, every muscle in my body taut. I whispered to her, "Get behind the kitchen counter. Stay low." She crawled silently, clutching her phone. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then the voice came again, softer now, right against the door. "Last chance, Mrs. Carter. You've already lost your son. Don't lose yourself, too." I pressed my back against the wall, holding my phone like a weapon, counting the seconds until Kara arrived. But in my gut, I knew the broker wasn't going to wait for help to come. The silence after that voice felt heavier than any sound. Every second dragged. I could hear Naomi's shallow breathing from behind the kitchen counter. My own pulse thudded in my ears. The man outside didn't knock again. He just stood there, waiting, as if he already knew we wouldn't move. Then slowly, the doorknob began to turn. The lock held, but the sound of metal grinding against metal sent chills down my spine. He was testing it, applying pressure, maybe using a tool. I grabbed the nearest thing I could find, a heavy ceramic vase from Naomi's side table, and held it tight in both hands. Naomi whispered, barely audible, "Lena, what if he breaks in?" "We stall," I murmured. "Kara's almost here." The doorknob twisted again, harder this time. The wood creaked. Then the noise stopped. A few seconds later came faint footsteps, moving away down the hall. Naomi crawled forward. "Did he leave?" I motioned for her to stay down. My phone buzzed again. Kara. "Arriving now. Tell me exactly where he is." I texted back quickly. "He was at door. Might be heading for stairwell." I crept toward the window, careful not to make the floorboards creak. The van was still there under the streetlight, but now the driver's seat was empty. Its engine idled softly, exhaust puffing in steady bursts into the rain-cooled air. "His van's still outside," I whispered, "but he's not in it." Naomi's voice shook. "Then where?" A sharp noise cut her off, the metallic clang of the fire escape ladder being pulled down from above. We both froze. The sound came again. Boots on steel, slow, measured steps descending. He wasn't leaving. He was coming from the roof. Naomi's face drained of color. "He's climbing down to the window," she breathed. I looked toward the far end of the living room, where thin curtains hung over the small balcony window. The faint outline of a figure appeared behind them, broad-shouldered, steady, then the sound of gloved hands tapping lightly on the glass. Tap, tap, tap. "Don't move," I whispered. The figure paused, then slid something against the glass. It made a scraping noise, a suction cup, a small cutting tool. The outline bent closer. The man was trying to cut a circle through the pane. I backed toward the hallway and whispered to Naomi, "Grab your keys. When I say go, run to the stairwell." "What about the letter?" she asked. "Forget the letter." She hesitated only a second before nodding. The tapping grew faster. Tiny glass flakes sparkled under the lamp as the circle widened. Then a loud voice echoed from the street below. Kara's voice amplified through a police loudspeaker. "This is Officer Mitchell. Step away from the building. Hands where I can see them." The cutting stopped. The figure jerked back from the window. Naomi gasped. We both ducked behind the sofa. Outside, heavy boots pounded against the metal steps of the fire escape. Then came shouting, the clatter of equipment, and the deep rumble of more engines. I crawled to the window and peeked through the curtain just in time to see two flashlights sweep across the fire escape. A man in a dark jacket was pressed against the railing, trying to climb down faster, but he slipped on the wet metal. His foot caught. He dangled for a second before an officer below grabbed his leg and pulled him down. Naomi ran to the door and flung it open as Kara appeared in the hallway, gun drawn but steady. "It's over," Kara said, breathless but firm. "We've got him." I followed her to the window. Below, officers pinned the man to the pavement beside the van. His hat had fallen off, revealing slicked-back gray hair and a narrow face, lined with age but sharp with fury. Even from the third floor I could hear his voice, calm and cutting. "You're all too late," he said. "Everything's already in motion." Kara leaned out the window. "Who are you working with?" she demanded. The man smiled faintly, even as the officers cuffed him. "You'll find out soon enough. The money's already gone." Naomi's hand tightened around my arm. "Gone? What does he mean?" Kara turned back to us, eyes grim. "He means the broker wasn't just running the insurance scam. There's something else. something Daniel might have set in motion before his arrest. I felt my legs weaken. Then Daniel wasn't lying when he said it wasn't over. Kara nodded. No, he wasn't. And if this man's telling the truth, there's still someone else out there pulling the strings. We watched as the officers loaded the man, Gray, into a waiting car. The van's doors hung open, showing computer screens and cables inside, all still humming. Lines of code ran across one of the monitors, a transfer confirmation flashing red. A chill settled deep inside me. Somewhere, someone was still watching, and whatever Daniel had started, it hadn't ended with him or with Gray. It was bigger, carefully built, timed, and still moving. Naomi whispered, "What do we do now?" I looked out at the van, the flashing lights, and the man smirking in the back seat of the cruiser. "Now," I said quietly, "we find out what he meant when he said the money's already gone." Because for the first time since that birthday dinner, I realized this wasn't just a family tragedy anymore. It was a crime that had already reached far beyond my home, and someone out there was still finishing the job. We were escorted out of the apartment by 2 uniformed officers, while another team sealed off Naomi's building. Downstairs, the street had transformed into a small command post. Police cars, an evidence van, and a mobile cybercrime unit were lined up like chess pieces. Officers moved back and forth under the flicker of street lamps. Gray sat cuffed in the back of a cruiser, his head tilted back, eyes closed, as if none of it concerned him. The van he had been using stood with its doors thrown open, revealing a dense array of equipment: laptops, routers, cellular boosters, and 3 hard drives plugged into a power strip. The screen still glowed with lines of code, scrolling logs, and a wireframe of my house mapped in real time. Kara guided Naomi and me to a taped-off section near the curb. "Stay here," she said, her voice clipped, but steady. "I need to see what's in that van before they power it down." We watched as a technician climbed inside and began photographing everything. He pointed out a satellite uplink bolted to the ceiling, then removed a USB stick from a hidden compartment. Another officer found a stack of forged IDs, driver's licenses, passports, and 2 badges that looked eerily official. Naomi clutched her purse tightly. "He had all this sitting outside my building?" she whispered. I nodded, my eyes fixed on the screen closest to us. It showed a live dashboard of financial accounts. At the top was a company name I didn't recognize, Carter Blake Holdings AG. Below it, a Zurich IBAN account number. The balance was still updating, numbers flickering in and out like a slot machine. My breath caught as the final figure settled, $4,287,000. A red banner flashed across the top. "Transfer initiated and clearing Aero72 UTC. Naomi saw it too. "That's the account," she whispered. "That's the one Daniel mentioned." Kara returned from the van, her expression hard. "They started the transfer before we got here," she said. "It's in a holding stage. Swiss banks aren't easy to stop once funds are flagged as private trusts. And because it's under a company name, it's shielded. We'll need international warrants to freeze it." I felt dizzy. "So, it's gone?" "Not yet," Kara said, lowering her voice. "We might have a window, hours, maybe a day. But we need leverage, something the bank can't ignore." Naomi reached into her purse and pulled out a small black USB drive. "I still have this," she said. "It has every message Daniel sent me, the contracts, even the draft trust documents. He thought I deleted it. If the bank sees proof of fraud—" Kara took the drive carefully. "This might be enough," she said. "But we'll have to move fast. Gray won't talk, and Daniel's already lawyering up. Whoever else is behind this will know we're onto them now." A shout came from the van. The technician held up a thin black folder he'd pulled from a hidden compartment under the driver's seat. Kara opened it under the streetlight. Inside were printed emails neatly organized, each marked with initials and dates. One line at the top jumped out. "Phase 2. Contingency of primary fails." My stomach tightened. "What's Phase 2? Kara scanned quickly. "It looks like instructions." If Daniel is arrested or incapacitated, another party steps in to finalize the liquidation, someone called R. It's vague, but there are notes about accessing backup keys, moving pension funds, and ensuring the asset is neutralized. Naomi's face went pale. Asset, she whispered. I felt my skin go cold. They're talking about me. Kara closed the folder and handed it to an officer. We're done here for tonight. Both of you need to be somewhere safe until I sort through this. I'll get a secure location. We were led into an unmarked sedan parked at the end of the street. As we drove away, I looked back at the flashing lights and the van stuffed with my stolen life. Gray stared out the cruiser window, his lips curled in a faint smile, as if he were already thinking 10 moves ahead. Inside the car, Naomi sat with her hands folded in her lap, her eyes fixed on nothing. I thought once Daniel was arrested, it would be over, she whispered. But it's bigger, isn't it? It's a machine. I reached over and held her hand, though mine was shaking. It's a machine, I said softly, and it's still running. Kara turned in the driver's seat, her eyes meeting mine in the rearview mirror. That's why we're moving now, she said, before Phase 2 starts. The city lights blurred past us. For the first time, the fear inside me shifted into something sharper. Resolve. They had taken my trust, my safety, my son, and nearly my life. But they hadn't silenced me. I squeezed Naomi's hand once more. If they think I'm an asset to neutralize, I whispered, they're about to find out I'm a threat instead. The unmarked sedan cut through the wet city streets, wipers keeping a slow rhythm against the windshield. I sat in the back next to Naomi, my pulse still too fast, my hands cold despite the car's warm air. Kara drove without speaking, her eyes flicking from the road to the rearview mirror every few seconds. The city outside was a blur of neon and rain, but I wasn't really seeing it. All I could see was Gray's faint smile behind the cruiser window and Daniel's eyes when he whispered, "You don't know what I started." We left downtown behind and entered a quieter neighborhood, lined with shuttered shops and empty sidewalks. Kara turned down an alley and parked behind a brick building with a metal door marked storage. She turned off the engine but kept the lights off. "This is a secure property I use for some clients," she said finally, her voice low but steady. "It's off-grid, no cameras inside, no leases under your names. We'll stay here until I know where Phase 2 is pointing." Naomi and I followed her inside. The room was plain and windowless, with a worn sofa, a kitchenette, and a small office desk stacked with file boxes. Kara closed the door behind us and locked 3 separate bolts before setting her phone on the counter and removing the battery. She handed me a burner phone, still sealed in its plastic. "Wrap. Use this if you need to call me," she said. "Don't use your own devices. Everything tied to you two is compromised." Naomi sat on the sofa, her arms crossed tightly over her stomach. "What happens now?" she asked. Her voice was small, almost like a child's. Kara pulled a chair across from us and sat down. "Now," she said, "we plan. We don't wait for them to make the next move. The transfer Gray initiated, $4.2 million, is a symptom. But it's not the whole disease. The contingency plan we found in his van mentions someone called R. This person isn't just a backup, they're the key. If R moves before we do, the money vanishes, and one or both of you could still be targeted." Naomi shivered. "I thought the broker was the key." "He's a middleman," Kara corrected. "Someone above him designed this. Look at the pattern. Daniel forges documents. Harold handles the house and deliveries. Gray runs surveillance and the offshore accounts. But who profits? Who wrote the contracts? The company name on that Zurich account, Carter Blake Holdings AG, didn't exist until 2 months ago. Someone built it quietly, waiting for the trigger event." I rubbed my temples, trying to steady my thoughts. "Trigger event meaning my death." Kara nodded once. "The moment your death certificate hits the system, the funds move. That's why Daniel rushed the paperwork. That's why Harold started dosing you slowly, so you'd weaken, maybe collapse, a natural heart failure. No investigation, just payout. Naomi hugged her arms tighter. I only found out the real plan a week ago, she said. I tried to warn you at dinner, but Daniel was watching me. He told Harold to sit near me at all times. That's why I switched the glasses. I thought it would buy time. Her words made my throat tighten. You saved my life, I whispered. She shook her head. But not your trust. I was part of it for too long. I reached out and took her hand. You chose to stop. That matters now. Kara cleared her throat softly. We don't have time for guilt. What we need is leverage. Proof that this is organized fraud, not a domestic dispute. If we can show that R and the broker are tied to a larger network, we can freeze the funds and force cooperation. She reached into her bag and pulled out a small laptop. I copied some of the data from Gray's van before the techs shut it down. It's encrypted, but there are fragments. Email headers, contact lists, transfer schedules. If we cross-check them with the messages on Naomi's drive, we might find a pattern. She handed the laptop to me. You know the firm's contacts better than anyone, she said. Start scanning for familiar names, even initials. Think of vendors, lawyers, consultants, anyone who had your trust. I took the laptop with trembling hands, the screen filled with spreadsheets and logs, numbers and codes scrolling endlessly. I scanned quickly, my mind working faster than my fear, and then I saw it. A series of payments marked Retainer R. Devlin Consulting. The address listed was one I recognized, an office Daniel had once visited when setting up a new pension plan. R. Devlin, I said aloud. He's a financial advisor. He used to work with my late husband's accounts 15 years ago. I haven't spoken to him in a decade. Kara's eyes sharpened. That's our R. Naomi leaned forward. Do you know where he is now? Last I heard he moved to Chicago, I said. But if he's behind this, he could be anywhere. Kara began typing fast. I'll run him through my databases. If we can tie him to the Zurich account, we'll have enough for the feds. Naomi stood and started pacing. He knows we have the envelope, she said suddenly. He knows about the USB drive. If he set up Phase 2, what if it's not just about the money? What if Phase 2 means silencing us before we can stop the transfer? Kara didn't look up. That's why we're here and not at your apartment, she said. No one but me knows this address, and I've got 2 plainclothes officers watching the street. But even as she spoke, a part of me felt the walls pressing in again. We were safe for now, but only because the people hunting us didn't know exactly where we were. Yet. Gray had already found Naomi's building. He'd already placed cameras in my house. Whoever R was, he'd built this system so carefully that even Daniel had only been a pawn. I closed the laptop slowly. We need to hit him before he hits us, I said. My voice surprised me. It was firm, steady. You said we need leverage. What if I give him bait instead? Kara looked up. What do you mean? I sign a fake document, I said. Make it look like I'm cooperating with Daniel's original plan, liquidating the pension funds. If R thinks the transfer is going smoothly, he'll reach out to confirm. We trace him when he does. Naomi stared at me. That's dangerous. I met her eyes. So is waiting. Kara leaned back in her chair, thinking. It could work, she said finally, but it also puts you right back in the crosshairs. I'm already in them, I replied. The room went quiet. The rain had stopped outside, leaving the city in a hush. Kara shut the laptop and stood. Let me set it up, she said. If we do this, we do it my way, with every safeguard I can put in place. Naomi sat back down, rubbing her arms as if she were cold. If this works, she murmured, we'll know who's been behind everything. I looked down at my shaking hands and then at the burner phone on the table. If it works, I said softly, we'll end this before it ends us. And somewhere, I hoped, Daniel, sitting in a cell, would finally see the people thought he could control, turning his whole scheme inside out. Because for the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't just running anymore. I was moving toward them. The plan moved quickly. Kara used her contacts to set up a secure communications hub inside the storage building. She brought in 2 federal agents she trusted, one from cybercrime, one from financial crimes. Naomi and I watched as they connected encrypted laptops, burner phones, and a small portable server that looked like a black box no bigger than a lunch tray. By late afternoon, the room hummed like a command center. I sat at the desk with a clean sheet of paper and a pen. Kara placed a stack of forged trust documents in front of me, all marked draft. They looked identical to the real ones Daniel had slipped in front of me weeks before, but these were laced with tracking codes invisible to the naked eye. "Sign here," she said. "Make it look like the payout has been approved. We'll send a scan to the Zurich bank through a secure channel we know the broker monitors. The moment he opens it, we'll know where he is." I took a breath, steadied my hand, and signed my name. For years, that signature had represented my life's work: contracts, payrolls, taxes, agreements. Now it had become bait to catch the man who had tried to erase me. The agents transmitted the scan. Then we waited. The minutes dragged. Naomi sat beside me, silent but alert, eyes flicking to the screen where a trace program showed a map of Europe and a blinking icon waiting for movement. Kara stood at the door, speaking quietly into a radio. Then, at 4:17 p.m., the screen lit up. A connection opened from a secure IP in Zurich. The agent nodded to Kara. "We've got him. Same server Gray used to send the transfer. Someone's logging in now." Kara leaned over the laptop. "They're downloading the document. Wait, here it comes. Metadata injection confirmed. We're pinging back." The map updated, the blinking icon splitting into 2. One stayed in Zurich. The other hopped to another location, then another, then froze. A name appeared on the screen: R. Devlin Consulting, Chicago office. "There's your broker," the agent said. Kara smiled grimly. "Now we have a case." Naomi exhaled a long, shaky breath. "It's him. It's really him," the agent typed quickly. "I'm pushing this to the feds. We can freeze the Zurich account as proceeds of fraud and wire fraud across state lines. With the evidence on that USB and these logs, he won't be able to move a cent." I closed my eyes, feeling a weight I hadn't realized I was carrying lift just slightly. "Then it's over?" I asked softly. "It's the beginning of the end," Kara said. "But yes, this is the hammer blow. He can't hide now." Hours later, news came back from Chicago. Federal agents had raided a downtown office suite registered to R. Devlin Consulting. Inside, they found encrypted drives, multiple passports, and contracts matching the Zurich transfer. The broker had fled minutes before the raid, but the files left behind contained enough to charge him and seize the assets. When the call ended, I sat back and stared at the floor. My house had been violated, my business nearly stolen, my son, my only child, sitting in a cell awaiting charges for trying to poison me. And yet, for the first time in weeks, I felt like I was breathing air instead of water. Naomi moved closer. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I know you can't forgive me yet, but I wanted to save you." I put a hand on her shoulder. "You did save me. You risked everything to stop it. That matters." She started to cry quietly. I let her. We had both been used, both betrayed by someone we trusted, and both had chosen, at the last moment, not to be part of it anymore. Kara came over, crouched down so she was at eye level with me. "You're safe tonight," she said. "But this won't be easy. Court cases, media, people trying to spin the story. You're going to be painted as the villain by some and as a victim by others. You'll have to stand in front of rooms and tell your story again and again, but you're strong enough for that." I thought of the countless contracts, meetings, and deadlines I had faced in my life. I thought of all the times I had believed my calm efficiency was my strength. Now I understood it was something deeper, resilience born from years of building a life brick by brick. They had tried to tear it down, and I was still here. Later, when the agents left and the storage room went quiet again, I sat at the desk with a blank notebook. I wrote everything down, names, dates, messages, every detail while it was still fresh. Not for the police, not for the lawyers, for myself. Because no matter what came next, I would not let my story be rewritten by someone else. Naomi watched me write. "Why are you doing that now?" she asked softly. "Because the truth is my armor," I said, "and because someday someone will ask me how I survived this." She nodded slowly, understanding. The next morning, we were taken to a safe house outside the city. I stood by the window looking out at a quiet field where frost clung to the grass. For the first time, no cameras watched me. No hidden microphones, no poison in my tea, just the cold air and the sound of birds. I thought of Daniel. I would visit him. Not yet, but someday. I would look him in the eye and tell him he had not destroyed me, that I had survived, not because of his betrayal, but despite it. And maybe, just maybe, he would understand what he had thrown away. Standing there, I realized this story wasn't only about crime and money. It was about trust, about how fragile it is, how easily it can be turned into a weapon, but also about how, even when trust is broken, you can choose not to break with it. You can stand up. You can fight back. I turned, back to Naomi and Kara. "We're done being targets," I said quietly. "It's time to rebuild." Kara smiled faintly. "And you will, stronger than before." Naomi squeezed my hand. "And not alone," she said. For the first time in days, I believed it. Betrayal is devastating. It can come from the people you least expect, the ones who share your table in your blood. But survival isn't just about luck. It's about listening to your instincts, documenting the truth, and asking for help before it's too late. Trust is precious, but your life is worth more than loyalty to someone who means you harm. If you're ever in doubt, protect yourself first. The people who truly care about you will stand with you, not against you. Before you go, I want to hear from you. Comment below and tell me where in the world you're watching from today. If this story kept you watching until the end, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next story. Every comment and share helps us bring you more true-to-life stories like this one. And you never know, the next one might be about something happening right now in your own backyard. Stay safe, stay aware, and I'll see you in the next story.